Good evening and welcome back to the channel. Tonight we're going to talk about gaining perspective of our purpose. This is the second video in a series, and I'll have a link above to the first video, Gaining Perspective of Our Existence. I'm also going to briefly summarize that at the start of this video to tie them together, but also have this on a playlist so you can watch them in succession. These three videos come out of my book, The Deathless War. And in the second chapter, the intelligence briefing, we talk about all three of these concepts. And what they're really designed to do when you put all three of them together is give you a great perspective of the truth of the world that surrounds you and a dimensional realm outside of it and your existence in that dimensional realm. So this will probably take 4 videos now that I've been thinking about it a little bit more. So let's go ahead and jump into the summary of last night's video, Gaining Perspective of Our Existence, where we first talked about this dual design concept, where we have both a physical form and we have a dimensional form that exist under one roof of consciousness. When we're physically alive, as we are now, our consciousness adheres to our physical form. But upon the expiration of our physical form, namely at our point of us dying or death, our consciousness instantaneously transfers over to our dimensional form. And we talked about near-death experience survivors saying that there was no separation. In other words, when they died, there was an instantaneous transfer of their consciousness to their dimensional form. In fact, Dr. Neal, when she was talking about it in her book, she literally said that it felt as though there was a peeling away, almost like just kind of something just peeling, almost like a banana peel, just peeling away from her physical form into her, and then her dimensional form existed. So it's a very fascinating book. But then we talked about interjecting time on top of this. That gave us a great perspective of now our dimensional form existing in future or infinite future time, and the relationship, the ratio, if you will, of our dimensional form to our physical form, almost being like we're 100% dimensional beings, not really physical beings, yet we experience the physical realm on a daily basis, and that's what we think we are, but technically speaking, we're really dimensional beings. I want to push that concept just one more step tonight. Go back to dual design and talk about something that might be confirmation, at least it is to me. Let me have your thoughts on what you think about this theory. But let's say in your physical form, as we are right now, we have a radio, and we're listening to a radio station. And then imagine in your dimensional form, after you have died, you are listening to a radio station, that same exact radio station. And then what if we put the two of those together so that you're both with your physical form and your dimensional form, you are listening to two different radios that are playing the exact same radio station. So what you really have is two copies of this radio station playing at the exact same time. There's a concept in this world that we call deja vu. And what I believe deja vu is actually the summation or the stereo effect, or two copies, if you will. One copy of the radio station, or of a vision, or some place that you see, or some conversation that you had with somebody. You say, gosh, I've had that conversation before. I wonder why. Or I feel like I've been here before. I wonder why. Or listening to something on the radio, gosh, it just seems as though I've been here before. Now, there's all types of theories behind what deja vu is, like we're recycling through time over and over again, and this is just a second time that we have, second or third or fourth time that we've come across the exact same time frame. So we just think, because we're in some type of loop, that, oh, I've been here before. But I think the answer to deja vu, the experience, whatever you want to call it, is really what's happening is your consciousness is obviously adhered to our physical form, obviously, but it also is adhered at the exact same time and listening to the exact same thing or seeing the exact same thing from your dimensional form. When both of those are played together, both of those copies are overlaid, if you will, over it, you're experiencing at the very same time two copies of the same thing. That's why you feel as though, oh, I've been here before, or I've seen this before, or we've had that conversation before. So let me know what you think about this theory in the comments below. I'd really appreciate your input on that. So let's look at gaining perspective of our purpose. The complexities of a car and truck are rather impressive man-made inventions, certainly to say the least. Just think about all the parts and components that need to be manufactured just to create one. But if I were to ask you a very simple question, what is the purpose of a vehicle? You would quickly and easily say, the purpose of a vehicle is to transport passengers or cargo from one place to another. So the question kind of becomes, why is it that most people really don't have an idea of their purpose? Typically, when asked, the average person responds with, well, maybe like, take care of my family, be a good person, help those in need, make a truckload of money, right? All of which are admirable, but they completely miss the point or the perspective that these videos are trying to help you with, the perspective of the question. But don't feel bad if you have said that is the purpose. Purposes along those lines are what you would define as your purpose. Because even Rick Warren, a theologically trained expert, in his New York Times best-selling book, The Purpose-Driven Life, missed the point of the question. Because the subtitle of his book is called, or states, What on Earth Am I Here For? We're not talking about a person's day-to-day purpose on Earth. What we're really talking about here, and what we really need to ask, fundamentally ask ourselves, is what's the purpose of our physical form? Like, why? If we were to be dimensional beings, virtually 100% of our entire lifespan, a never-ending lifespan. We're here on Earth for, let's say, 100 years, and then for infinite future time, we reside in our dimensional form. Would it not have made it a lot simpler if we just existed in our dimensional form forever? What is the purpose of our physical form? Because it is just such a micro moment in infinite future time. There has to be a purpose for it. The answer, which we've already talked about in the last video, rests in this 1 to infinity ratio expression that we created to help us understand our physical and dimensional forms. There's really only one purpose of our physical form, and that singular purpose, suggested by those who have survived near-death experiences and telegraphed numerous times throughout the Bible, which we'll look at in the next video, is an individual decision that decides the fate of our dimensional form between one of two polar opposite dimensional realms across infinite future time. Per Einstein's observation, this is our baseline perspective. A little bit shorter video tonight. This is, I think, really important to understand. When we look at and think about 100% of our existence is really going to be resident within our dimensional realm, I think it's very important to know that it's really about a choice between two dimensional realms, one pleasant, one painful, that we have to deal with. But gaining this perspective is very, very important. In tomorrow night's video, we'll go ahead and talk about gaining perspective of the Bible. This will help start tying it in. This is kind of a very, very interesting part. I've really tried to simplify it down, did a lot of study on the subject matter that we'll talk about, but we're not even going to go into the Bible, but we're going to talk about a lot of things about the Bible. And I think when you see that, when you gain perspective of a lot of these, let's say, external realities of the Bible, you're going to be quite amazed at some of the findings. Okay, thanks again. I really appreciate your time, and I'll see you on tomorrow's video.